the lovely Wilberforces. The concept behind them was to keep them in very much the same colour tones as the elements that they turned into at night. So I guess the colour of slime was very important. I found myself in this effects world as well, whereby we also created those crazy monsters which were made of foam on the inside. The detailing on the outside was actually latex, cabbage leaves that we had latexed, and we used them as a texture on the outside. I do remember Rob Galley's the production designer. To get that slug effect, I remember him tying rubber inner tubes, tyre tubes together, and they would lie out there on the sand, and then we'd put these poor people in these big costumes and make them walk in the water. It was a little bit tragic when I think about it now. I could think of somebody who had lived in their own personal environment and was not really influenced by the outside world, but had, because they'd never travelled there, but only through the world of comics. It's kind of how I saw it. So what would you pick to be your ideal? So you'd be down at the wrecker's yard, or he'd be walking around and he'd find an emblem. Oh, that's pretty cool, I can wear that. And that's how it worked. And he had pieces of car parts that were woven into his costume, and the cowhide would have been something that was accessible to him. So it was very much just a study of what could be found within his world. The hat also was an influence from the cockie's hat of the time, the wide brim post-war hats, like the lemon squeeze of the wide brim. That's where that came from, and that was just altered around through his vision, really. I enjoyed the feeling that you could bring to it a New Zealand style of one particular Christmas at that period of time, how relaxed people were and how much they enjoyed the summer, and that comes through so strongly in that story. And it took me back to my youth of summer holidays as well. So I drew a lot on albums from second-hand stores and also up at the library, because that is the most recorded period you'd find where people are on holiday. And that was cool. I really enjoy going through other people's albums and how they relaxed and enjoyed and how they dressed. I tried to keep a bit of beauty in there as well, because people did at that time love to dress up, as well as being comfortable. The hats, the colour, the floral dresses, and the boys in their gorgeous loose shirts, baggy pants. Yeah, we had fun. Before that, I think the award had always been a contribution to design. So it encompassed everybody in the art department, and it is a collaboration, I completely understand that. But to be acknowledged for costume alone, I thought was a great marker for costume designers in general for the future. And because I think that not only myself, but I think there are other people, clever designers, who deserve an accolade. I hadn't done a Sandals and Swords show ever before in my life. It was an it was a really enjoyable challenge. You know, I wasn't daunted by it. It was hard work, but it was creating something new, different, hadn't been seen before. It was like action hero time. It was a point of reference to the world of a slightly surreal and comic, and it was great. When you're developing a new show, you do a lot of illustrations, an awful lot of research. You draw on many aspects of knowledge, I mean art, cinema, books, comics. That surreal world of illustration. You draw and draw and draw and draw. And you lay them out. It's very much producer-driven, shows like American shows. So then you're presenting, and you're presenting until you find a common ground that everybody thinks they feel the show belongs in. And you take it from there and you start building the garments. That wasn't my intent. I'd never seen it, looked at it in that regard at all. My intent was to find something really interesting and cool and fresh and different. That also worked for Lucy. And I think we succeeded. Kind of unwittingly I didn't realise that it would have such a big impact, I have to admit. I went back and started looking at Art Nouveau paintings, especially and architecture, especially the metalwork and the just the fluidness of the metalwork, especially in the architecture, and that's where the illustration started to go, and that's why how the metalwork developed on her costume, really. That soft cage of metal around her to protect her, to give her a feeling of superiority and strength within, to me, which seemed like that world that we'd been in of very male-orientated heroes. And also to make it look really cool. So she had the skirts that were slightly Roman influenced, and then the armour, which came from, inspired by the architecture of the Nouveau. We must have used so much blue dye. To hold the blue colour in amongst the bush with the military. So all those uniforms were dyed with an inch of their lives. In fact, they almost could have glowed in the dark, I think. But it did pay off. I mean, they do look blue. The colour does hold, and there is an intensity in there. Sam's costumes were very much a collaboration with Sam. There were elements that were already scripted and set that we tried to retain and use as a guideline. There were challenges, yes. You had to. It's one of those situations where you have to be incredibly strong in what you believe in, what you want the picture to look like, and you're also working for a director. You have an overall concept that you've got to retain. I really want to retain that look, and then there was an actress who maybe saw it in a slightly different manner, which isn't unusual. This does happen a lot on film. And so you can find yourself in very much of the mediator and mentor role, above and beyond being a costume designer. Spartacus encompasses everything a costume designer could ever wish for. We have beauty, we have pain, we have ugly, we have down and dirty, we have right down and dirty, and we have down and dirty again. And then we have this wonderful world of what can be more fashionable or beautiful than the naked body, which is there for us to adorn every week. It's fabulous. I get to do beautiful gowns every week. There's the Roman military, there's men in uniform, there's men who have spent months building themselves up, looking absolutely fantastic, wearing very little. The costumes, it's a big build. We build everything here. It's an action film, and it's an action television series, action and stunt. So the consequence of that, everything has to be friendly to the stunt department. So all those helmets and the gladiators are all made out of a hard coat, and then they have to be finished by a finishing department to look like metal. There's also a level, because a level of colouring we can use. We're working on green screen and blue screen. So you're always challenged by the colours that you're using and and switch them around, and the textures. All the adornments are made around their necks. We've got a couple of jewellers and sculptors we have so much fun making phallic type imagery to put around their necks. It's great. I think I know every piece of Roman phallic findings ever in my research. It's great.